Hello, I'm Paola Poletto, and I'm the Director of Engagement and Learning, and I'm joined today by...
Hi, I'm Alexa Greist. I'm Associate Curator and the R. Fraser Elliott Chair of the Department of Prints and Drawings. Hello.
So thanks for joining us today. We are on Wednesdays, we are Maker Wednesdays at the AGO, and we have launched a new Maker video. Today, it's one where I chat through a very simple exercise, at least it seems simple. One of writing, automatic writing is a way of saying it, or stream of consciousness writing. And you can see that on the AGO homepage. It's really a strategy that comes out and that I've learned from creative writing. It's my background, but also through surrealist strategies. And I was a huge fan of surrealism. A lot of my own practice is around surrealist strategies, and stream of consciousness writing or automatic writing or drawing is one of those tactics. Alexa, you brought a work from our collection to speak to.
Yes, let me share my screen. And there we go. Today, when Paola and I were talking about this, thought that showing a drawing that had some freeness to its forms would be an interesting work for us to talk about, and chose this work by Paul Klee, which is called Hard and Soft. It's actually titled Hard and Soft in German. It's Hard and Soft 1. And this is a drawing, as you see the information here, as we can all see it, from 1937. And what I wanted to do today was sort of a looking exercise and something that we can do, all of us, with the same set of tools, which is just looking. And I'd like to guide you simply with questions that I ask myself. I'm a specialist, as you would guess, from my title, in prints and drawings. And as such, we are looking primarily at works on paper. And so when you come to a work, you know, I would usually want to do my bookish research and go and get a book from the library, a catalog with a lot of information on the artist and his drawings. But I don't have that luxury. And so we're really all on the same footing here we're all looking at the same image. And so what I want to bring to it are just questions that I've learned to ask from years of studying and time spent in museums. So you're faced with this, and the first thing I would say is to look at this work and say, well, okay, what is the support? The support is what it's on. In this case, it is paper, and even without seeing, as you can see, there's text beside it saying it's newsprint. You standing in front of it would probably be able to identify paper. Yes, we all use tablets, but paper is still pretty present in our lives in many forms. And I would say, all right, it's paper. Well, what color is it? Okay, in this case, it's a sort of tannish. It probably would have started a different color. As I said, it's newsprint. And when I say newsprint, I mean it's newspaper without printing on it. So it probably would have started a lighter color, and the exposure to light and the chemicals in it have turned it this brown. Is it rough? Is it, you know, does it have sort of a texture that if you drew on it would be like a mountainside? No, it's pretty smooth. It's pretty smooth. Okay, the next question. What is the media? What made the marks? What are we looking at on the paper? In this case, you could say, well, it's black or really dark brown. I see some light areas sort of at the top. There's a little bit of lightness, but the main thing would be the lines made of the black pigment. Now we know, and if you're standing in a museum, we'd have a label telling you this, that it's charcoal. And it also says traces of pigmented paste. So there are some lightish gray blue areas, but what we're seeing really is charcoal. And my next slide, if I can, there we go, is a picture of probably the type of charcoal the artist would have used. Now, charcoal, if you've had a summer barbecue or you've had a campfire and you've burned down and there's a black sooty residue, that's charcoal. It's carbon. It's burned organic material. In this case, probably a pressed wood that has been burned quite a bit. You can pick up a stick from your campfire and you can draw with it. Try it sometime, you know, when we're all outside again a bit more. And you can draw on a rock next to your campfire. It's kind of fun to see. And that's probably how the first charcoals were used as drawing materials. But
So
they become more standardized. Yeah.
would it be similar then to, would we get the same effect as what you're showing here on the screen?
Yes, so what you see here, when I mentioned looking at paper, we often look at texture of paper. In this case, this paper has more of a texture. This is a charcoal, close-up view of charcoal drawing on paper. This paper has, you can even see the paper fibers. It's a little more fibrous and has more texture on it. So the charcoal would splinter and break and kind of sit in little divots or little holes or like depressions that are not necessarily present in the Paul Klee image because the paper is smooth. I would say though, that as you look, and I have a detail to the left side, there are areas that are darker than others. There are areas where more of the charcoal is on the page, and there are areas where less, and where it's thinner, almost translucent, like you could look through it and see the paper. And that's something you can do with charcoal. You simply by drawing a line, some parts of it are going to scratch more into the paper and leave a darker line, or you could smudge it with your finger if you wanted. That's actually the next thing I would say about looking closely at a drawing, is try to figure out, or it can be fun to figure out how the artist made the mark. You can sometimes tell as you start looking where the artist started a line. In this case, I might say sometimes he starts a line somewhere where you see the point is thinnest, and then as he pushes, it may drag a little more of that charcoal, a little more may lay down. You may be able to think, gee, did he turn what he was drawing with? So here you can do that, and you can do that with anything. I work on the 16th century in Italy. You can kind of diagnose or puzzle out often where an artist started. Did they change their mind? Did they move a line? Did they not like where a hand was? In this case, this is an abstracted design, something that's not necessarily recognizable as, let's say, a tree or a person, but it's shapes. And we're going back to the title here, hard and soft. Charcoal can leave hard and soft lines, but also as you look across the drawing and you look up at the top, especially for me, I see some more jagged lines. And I move down a few inches and I see sort of more curved lines. And I think that Paul Klee is playing both with what his medium can do and also what the shapes can do. And he was a playful man in terms of drawing and painting, and really loved to absorb the childlike qualities of actually children drawing and playful aspects of life. And as I think Paola will begin to discuss too, the accidental or the non-intentional aspect of daily life or of movement or of thought that can come in and provide you know, a release, a joy, or just, you know, a way to express yourself.
Yeah, I love this title, Hard and Soft, because it does point to both shape, the possibilities around shape, and the weight perhaps you use to apply your pigment or charcoal in this case. And what's great about this work in particular for me is that it has that kind of a freestyle feel, but it also has, and which I think is a nod to surrealism. I know when I've read, Klee has been associated with surrealism, but also cubism, because he lived through many of these periods or was exposed to the periods.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's also this sense of volume here. And I even see a landscape because of that top line. Mm-hmm. So there's just so much to kind of imagine from this drawing.
And, you know, I'd add one more question, and then I'll leave it off to you, but I'd add one more question about it, which is often when you look at a drawing, especially a drawing from before the 20th century, one asks, what was the function of this drawing? Why does it exist? Because drawings for a very long time in the West, and as I said, I work primarily on Italy, where paper was expensive. They were reused. They often get used up. They don't exist. And drawings really were part of the creative process with the intention of helping an artist make something else for a very long time. Yes, they were collected and kept, but until about the 18th century, a finished drawing that was not made as a gift for a patron, so someone who supported you as an artist financially, you know, your reputation, they really only existed to be part of the creative process towards something else. And this drawing, though, is not a function towards another work of art necessarily. It is almost certainly an independent drawing exercise, something the artist made to exist in the form we see it today, made it to exist as a drawing that we could just enjoy.
Alexa, I know you mentioned that we own #1, but there's a #2 in the world and on sale.
It is for sale. So the last time that we had exhibited this work, we knew there was another drawing, and it was in a private Swiss collection. And then I just did a quick internet search when I was preparing and thinking about this. And we didn't get any copyright, but you can do an internet search. If you look for Hard and Soft and Paul Klee, it will come up. And so apparently it is now on the market. So he played with this, and there are a couple other works, I think a work by Kandinsky, if I'm not mistaken, with the same title. And so it's possible that, and likely that these artists, were in dialogue. As Paola said, the artist lived quite a long time and was friends with many different artists of different movements. And they may have been having an exchange of ideas and an exchange of drawings and the way they were creating by titling things the same way.
We have a question from Robin, and she's asking whether it should be Klee or Clay.
I am an Italianist. I am terrible. And I have often heard Clay. Paola, you say Klee. Tomato, tomato. There's probably actually a proper answer, and I apologize for my Italian-focused pronunciation always.
It's a great question. So I'm going to actually talk about the prompt or exercise I'd like to propose, and maybe we can go on to that. And it's really about just connecting to your writing utensils. I'm using a pencil. Any pencil you have at home will do. And it comes out of the idea of writing and not sort of stopping yourself when you write, letting words just freely kind of move onto the paper. And when you do something like that, it's a meditative process as well, and acknowledging in your mind that you're actually having thoughts and writing them down. And so here you see an exercise I've done. It takes about 10 minutes. It's a fairly large sketchbook I had. And I'm not actually, for the most part, lifting the pencil for every word. I'm just letting it go from word to word, repeating words when nothing's coming, picking up whatever's happening in my environment. If my kids are talking, I'm just writing it down. And what begins to happen is that I really start to feel my palm on the paper. I really feel the texture of the paper. I feel how strongly I'm holding on to the pencil, but also how my words that I'm thinking are translating into something else as I'm writing. And so there's a sense of control and losing of control, if you will. And I think as a process, and this indeed is just a process, it's actually really quite, it sort of calms me down. So it's one that then leads to other things. So if you go to the next slide, what I wanted to just give a sense of is that any pencil can do, but our everyday pencils tend to be both a combination of hard and soft lead. And so the pencil in the middle gives you a sense of what that looks like. But drawing tools, simple pencils, actually come in various hardness or softness. And so a B pencil, a 5B or a 6B typically is the largest, will be very dark or black, and it will smudge easily. Whereas a 4H pencil will be, and often, even like pencils that you might use in drafting, for instance, will be much finer. And so that's hard, that's a lead that's hard, the H. And so it creates a finer line, one that's not as dark. And so you can play with these. If you find a few pencils in your home that might be a different hardness or softness, you can start to imagine what that could do on a paper. So what I did is, if you go to the next slide, is actually write both in first in an H pencil, the light writing, and then I used the same page and I continued my writing, again, automatic or a stream of consciousness writing, and I used a hard pencil. And it actually changes the way I think the words go onto the paper. With the hard pencil, they're lighter, they're more refined, and with a soft pencil, the darker writing, my words seem to be bigger. And so you have this sense of volume too, and the layering that begins to emerge. And so then I thought of another strategy, and in the next example, I took that idea of both hard and soft pencils, and another surrealist strategy is what you would call frottage or smudging. And I use the two objects you see on the right, a bottle cap and a string with a knot in it. And so I put them under the paper, and I just used a pencil and went back and forth. So there's no smudging here, just back and forth using the side or a slanted pencil. And then these shapes emerge. So the smaller, you'll see smaller circles. They're really because I was using the knot of the string, and then the larger circles are of the cap. And you know, it's just fun to sort of see what can emerge from that, and playing with shapes. And then in the final drawing, or the final example, I then turned the paper around, and I used a different bottle cap, a slightly smaller one, and I used a pink pencil crayon, doing the same thing, but the direction of the pencil markings are different from the previous circles that I have on the sheet. And it creates a sort of dynamic image, or starts to create a kind of dynamism on the page that I quite liked. And again, it didn't feel like I was pushing something. There was a real kind of end result here. It's really to kind of play with shapes and volume and the different kinds of pencils that might be available at home. So you can do this with color, or you can just do this with simple pencils and have different effects. So I hope this is something others might take up. It's really, you can do it with words, or you can do it with objects. And they kind of have a similar sort of, for me, calming but also exciting exploration. And with that, Alexa, do you have any final thoughts?
I mean, it's sort of cheesy to say, but I really want to do this evening, actually. I think it's the idea too of found objects and seeing how they come through the page, that something funny enough as soft as a rope can actually, depending how you push on it with your pencil or with whatever you end up choosing, because crayons would work too, right? It might come across very hard. I think that playful nature of it can also be freeing for those of us who might be perfectionists and not have the skills to draw something and feel that it was relaxing. To draw with chance can be really relaxing and fun.
Totally. So thanks, everyone. We challenge you to do so and share your creations with us at AGO Makes or AGO at Home, from home. And have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.